Hey everybody, good morning, Robb Moffett. Guys, I've been thinking about the upcoming Oscars. I don't know if Joe Haver is going to have his Oscar competition this year. The last 2 years during the Oscars, there was a contest. Joe Haver asked his subscribers to make a movie, a feature-length movie, during the Oscars. The first year, I had no idea it was going on. I was watching his channel and I realized it was Sunday, so I just came up with an idea in my head where I could make a movie about an old man who had to tell a story before he died about a family member who started the Second World War and the Great Depression. It was a comedy, but it was just me laying in bed pretending I'm dying, talking about a family member who caused the Great Depression and Second World War. Uh, but the second year, last year, I was more ambitious. I made a movie um, about an old man that made a deal with the devil. He only wanted three things. He wanted to live to 150. He wanted to have all of his YouTube videos to be 10 times more successful than anybody else. And he wanted a lifetime supply of Tutti Frutti ice cream. I got to play four parts. The devil, a lawyer, an executive from YouTube, and the old man. It was the most fun I ever had on YouTube. I keep thinking, what was I going to do for this year? And I I came up with an idea. I was watching Scott Adams. Scott Adams says in one of his podcasts that whenever he watches a movie, a drama, and if somebody gets tied to a chair, he gets up and leaves. And I understand his situation. As you get older, you have experienced a lot of drama in your life. You don't need a lot of like fake drama. And but I got to thinking about it. What if you made a movie where everybody was tied to a chair? I know it's crazy, but it gets better. It would be an improvisational movie where all the characters would have like a skeleton or a plot, but they would improvise most of their situation. But they're all tied to a chair. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. I don't know where I'm going to find 11 people to be tied to a chair. But I thought it would make a great movie for an hour-long movie made during Sunday of the Oscars. Here's my plan. If you have a little room, you start off with the camera in the corner, and there's one person, and that person's the main character, or you think it is, and he talks and the camera backs up and you have two people, and then they talk, and every single person that's tied up, they can remember what happened before, but they can't remember yesterday. They just remember at some point in their past they fell asleep and they woke up and they're all here together in the room, tied up. There's at an angle, so you can have the camera in the middle of the room, and each person is going to be having a different viewpoint. Some of them are angry, some of them are worried about what they did to make somebody mad at them to do this. You're going to have a hierarchy too of the characters. So you have the main character, and the other two below that, you're going to have one person that's very, very optimistic, and another person that's full of gloom and doom. You have another person that sees everything through a lens of it's politics or religion or sexuality or gender or race. All the things that if you go to a party you would never talk about, because those are things you don't bring up because they're divisive and upsetting. But each one of these persons are going to be talking and seeing what's happening to them through the lens of what's important to them. One person, they only want to get home to take care of their family. Another person is worried about their business, what's going to happen. And then you get to existential situation, like why are they there? Did they die? Are they in heaven? Or they're waiting to go to, they're in, what's that, in between heaven and hell. You have situations where people, maybe they're in limbo. Maybe they're having a big discussion about well, you know what? Maybe this is a simulation. Then you have somebody say, well, it's not a simulation because he's got to pee. And if this was a simulation, he wouldn't have to pee. And he really needed to go to the bathroom. Another person, they're very sexual. They're just getting turned on by being tied to a chair. And another person is angry with everybody else in the room. Another person wants to get revenge on whoever did this to them. Another person is thinking about why this would happen, where they are, what's going on, how long they've been here, what's going to happen next, is this really happening? And you have individually, each person is going to have a time that you're going to have a clock on the wall, a digital. And so it's like you have a score with music, and you would have different instruments that play. Sometimes like the woodwinds will play, sometimes the brass will play, sometimes all of them will play, sometimes just one instrument will be a solo. So each person is going to have a part in the script where they're going to solo. But then other times, other people of the same frame of reference. Then you're going to have counterpoint where other people are arguing against that side. But you have people that know when the clock comes to 37 minutes for the next 60 seconds, they're on. They get to talk about what they're feeling about, why they're there, and so on, and what's happening. And you also have people that may come in the door and ask what the hell is going on here. And because everybody's tied to a chair, and they're going to go get security. Maybe security will come back, and they'll be talking to me about what's going on, and I'm telling them what's happening, and so on. But as time goes by, people are going to realize that they're just tied to a chair with a piece of paper tape, like packing tape, around their arm or leg, so they can just break and get up and leave. And one by one, people start leaving. Eventually, you end up with just three people, the main character, and then the real positive person, the real negative, and maybe a fourth person, which is going to end up really being the main character after all. There was one person in the situation when they were asking, like, why are they here? This person said, well, he was in a dream, and when he was dreaming, he was waiting on a bus, and the bus never came, and he was there forever, and it just waiting more. And he looked down the road, and there was a big group of people coming, and they were passing by, and he kept looking for the bus. Finally, he started walking with these people, and they kept walking and walking, but every once in a while, he turned behind him and see if the bus was coming. And eventually, these people came up to a building, and they went inside, and he went inside with them. And then when he went in the building, the door shut behind him, and he's in the jail. And he's talking to the guard, and he said, listen, I need to get out. I'm not with them. He said, I'm just waiting on a bus. And they laughed at him, like, of course, you're just waiting on a bus. But I think at the end of the movie, you could have that person left with just a couple other people, and he hears a bus coming, and he leaves and gets on the bus. I think it's going to be difficult because I want the whole video or movie to be shot in one take, and each person is going to know when their scene comes. It's like a play, but how are you going to keep the active interest in the viewer, because it's going to be static with everybody sitting in a chair? Well, some people can have chairs with wheels. You're also going to have a person that thinks he's MacGyver, and everything that is in the room is a way for him to escape, and he's always thinking about how he can use something to get out of the room or come up with a reason or some way that he can get out of this situation. And you've got the other person who's always wanting to go to the bathroom. You've got one person who's still getting excited about being tied up in a chair with other people. You've got people who, like, it's politics. Other people, they're still in that religion thing, like they must have died and they're waiting to go to someplace. And other people say, we know you don't die, you're reincarnated. And you just have, after I started thinking about this movie, I realized the characters were just things that happen in a person's head. All of the individual characters were actually just things that were happening in a person's mind. All these different people talking, all these different viewpoints. And so it evolved over time what this movie would be. It would be just different voices in a person's head, and they were all tied up in a chair, but they could leave anytime they wanted. And eventually most of them do. And they were just left with the really optimistic person, the really pessimistic person, and the person who wanted to catch a bus. I was also thinking, since it is very improvisational, you could have it where a person could do the whole hour and 11 minutes. I wanted 1 hour and 11 minutes was a nice length. Actually, it's pretty long. There, Alfred Hitchcock, he made a movie one time where it was all shot in one shot, and I think it was called The Rope. It took place in one room, and it was very hard to keep the visual interest because there wasn't much for the movement in the movie. But I think for an hour-long movie for the Oscar competition for Joel Haver, this would be something interesting. But I don't know where I'm going to get 11 people. But I thought I would throw this out there if anybody else is interested in making a movie for the Oscar competition and they can't come up with an idea. If they have 11 people in a chair, I recommend the paper tape, the packing tape. That way it's easy to remove. You could just tape it onto the arm or leg or something. And like I said, some chairs have to have wheels, and that way, or slide across the room, because you don't want people in the same spot all the time. Some people are going to be trying to get out or also get closer to the people to argue with or communicate. So I think it's doable. I think the movie would be called the Scott Adams situation, where everybody's tied to the chair. So yeah, that that would be my contribution this year for the feature length movie for the Oscar competition. If I get 11 people, um, and I think I hear a bus. Okay, guys, this has been weird, and wonderful. Been a fun trip. Take care. See you out there. George Armstrong.